Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's been a very long time and I thought I was on a roll with the whole YouTube thing again and the whole like Instagram thing. I was doing so well and then training happened and I failed. And I've been waiting for so long to make this video because I didn't want to make other videos and not like speak about it or act fake or, you know, chat about the doctorate in like a good way when actually I really wasn't enjoying the doctorate and I had just failed an assignment. So as you guys, if you guys have been keeping up with my videos, then you'll know that I had an observed structured clinical examination, which is basically a 20-minute role play in which we have to do like a 20-minute session with a client or a fake client, and we're assessed on like loads of different competencies within 20 minutes. And I failed, and I took it really hard. It made me question a lot about whether I wanted to be in the profession, about whether I was good enough to be in the profession, about my clinical work that I've done on placement, and you know, the validity of the feedback that I received from placement supervisors. But I've done a lot of reflecting and self-care over the past like month, and I'm feeling more like myself. I'm feeling like I can go into work and actually like enjoy my job again, and I don't feel so angry at the course anymore, which is all really good. I'm not going too much into the ins and outs of why I failed or how. A lot of it was down to me being so focused on like hitting those competencies in the mark scheme, which made me come across as like quite detached from like the client that I was seeing in that role play. It's still obviously really hard, and like I think because I know that people who I work with on placement and previous colleagues that I've worked with when I was an AP, and also people who are on my course, because I know that some of those people follow this platform and now they're all going to know that I failed, there's a massive part of me that's like just embarrassed. But actually, like from speaking with my mentor, from my supervisor and from other qualified clinical psychologists, like failing is so normal, and like I know that, like I know that intellectually, I know that everyone fails on the doctorate, but when it happened to me, it really felt like I was the only one. And it wouldn't have hit me so hard if it was an academic assignment, but because it was clinical, and clinical is the thing that I care about most, that's why it was so hard. And I think with my YouTube and my Instagram page, I never want to be fake on here, ever. I want to kind of always, like the whole point of my channel was to kind of demystify this whole career and being an AP and also now being a trainee. But there was something so scary about coming on here and telling you all that I had failed, when I know a lot of you guys have said that you like look up to me, and in a way I'm kind of your like virtual mentor, and it made me feel like I had failed you guys in a weird way. It made me feel like the advice I give was invalid, and obviously now I know that's not true, and like now that I'm not as emotional, I know that's not true. But I think this fail really taught me that actually I wasn't so like secure in myself and my own kind of identity outside of psychology, and at the time I thought I was really connected with that part of me, but clearly not. And so this past month has been a lot of me like reconnecting with my values, and reminding myself of the other strengths that I have outside of psychology. Because, you know, failing an assignment, failing a 20-minute assignment shouldn't have impacted my confidence and my mood in the way that it did, I don't think. I mean, obviously, you know, those feelings are completely valid, but I think it was quite maybe disproportionate, and it really just shook me. But actually, like, the reason why I'm making this video, and I'm not, you know, I have no notes for this or anything, so I'm sorry if this is coming across like really jumbled, but I actually think this fail was probably the best thing that could have happened to me at this point in my career. It taught me a lot about, you know, myself and my need to actually figure out who I am as a person. I mean, I'm 25 and I'm also embarking on this journey of training to be a clinical psychologist, both of which, you know, prompt you to think about your identity and kind of act as a catalyst to development. I feel like your mid-20s is about development and figuring out who you are as an adult, and so is training in a way, figuring out who you want to be as a clinician. So I was speaking to my mentor about this, and she was basically saying how sometimes we do just need something to stop us in our tracks and to make us like reevaluate, and this really did. I felt for a little bit I was kind of just like plodding along, going through the motions, a little bit of training, and this gave me the kick up the bum that I needed to reflect on like why I'm doing this and get in touch with like the research and the literature that I like to read, and I completely lost that part of me. It made me realise that I completely lost a lot of my routines, and I think that's why it also hit me so badly, was because I actually wasn't taking good care of myself around the time of when I failed, and I realised that I had stopped like working out in the morning, I'd stopped journaling, I'd stopped reading my Bible, like a lot of stuff I wasn't doing anymore. And so this fail made me think about, okay, right, I need to get back to these routines and do what makes me feel good, because maybe that could have prevented me from having like a complete meltdown. I think if I had stuck to my routine, then I would have had more reserve in order to cope with this fail. And so I really do appreciate the fact that it has made me get in touch with that side of me that really does care for self-care, and to practice a little bit of what I preach. Now the OSCE itself, like I said, a lot of the feedback was around me not being there like with the client in the room, and that was partly because I was so fixated on the kind of marking scheme, but also the time. So because we only had 20 minutes, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have my phone out so I can read the time and focus on that. And I also became quite fixated on my notes and taking notes, which I wouldn't really do in sessions, but I think because the test element of it just made me really kind of use it as a safety blanket. So I guess from that, what I learned was that, you know, being with the client is actually one of the most important things that we need to do, is just to be there. And I'm reading a really good book at the moment, actually, which my personal tutor gave me after my meltdown, and it's this, called The Examined Life. And in this he says, it basically speaks about how being present is more important than kind of like giving people praise and boosting their confidence in that way. Being present, whether with children, with friends, or even with oneself, is always hard work. But isn't this attentiveness, the feeling that someone is trying to think about us, something we want more than praise? So I guess it just kind of honed in on that fact that, you know, our being with a client is so important, and I guess it's just made me reflect on more of that in my clinical work, because some feedback that I had on placement was this idea of being more of a position where we are either standing kind of next to the client or like a few steps behind them, and being in a position of safe uncertainty is what it's called. So kind of where you don't really know what your questions are going to lead you to. You're really in a position of curiosity. And I guess that comes back to the idea of just being and being less task oriented. So I find that I'm less able to be curious when I'm so focused on my like checklist or things I have to do for an assessment. It removes me from that if I'm focusing on, okay, like I need to get their, you know, family history, their medical history, or their medications that they're on, or how many times they've been an inpatient. And when I have kind of this checklist in my head, I lose so much data because I'm not being curious. And that was another thing that you know, the OSCE taught me. I guess the fail also taught me how much pressure I put on the course, and how much of a pedestal I still kind of put it on, even though I've lived the course, for nearly a year now. I guess I became really angry that I had failed, because in a way I just felt let down, that I hadn't been like more prepared, and maybe they had given us all the information. I mean, bear in mind other people in my course didn't fail. But I did feel let down in a way, because I was like, you know, part of their job is to like get me to, part of their job is to get me through training, and here I was with a fail. And I also kind of was really worried because, you know, if you fail an assignment twice, then you get kicked off the course. So I was very worried for this resit. But yeah, I guess the main takeaway for me really from this whole fail was how much worth I put in the doctorate. And I've spoken about this before, and I've always said, you know, like, find things outside of psychology that you love. And even though maybe I was going through the motions of living this like balanced life, I don't know if I actually was really in touch with like that other part of me, or in touch with other things that give me worth. And it was genuinely like quite a scary time, because I was like, I don't know who I am. Like, I fully had what felt like a quarter-life crisis. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why I was putting myself through training, and it just all seemed like a massive mistake. But I don't want to leave this video on a downer. This was mainly a video just to kind of give you guys an update and an insight onto like kind of maybe the darker parts of the doctorate, and the parts where it really makes you think about your own identity. Before starting the course, everyone says like, you're not only going to develop as a professional, you're going to develop as a person. And this fail really kind of moved something in me to do that. And you know, it's still crap. Like, I haven't like fully recovered from it. My confidence in my clinical skills has never been that strong, and this really did impact it. But I think it's really important for trainees and even qualifiers to talk about these parts where, you know, things do go wrong and we don't get it right, because, you know, no one does. And I think me being so scared to come on and talk about this is so telling of like the profession, and kind of, you know, that perfectionist facade that maybe we put on a lot of the time. And I'm here to tell you it's not true. But in all realness, guys, like, I'm actually doing all right now. I'm hoping to get some more content out and like just get back to normal programming, really. I've got a lot of support from people on my course, and my personal tutor, and my mentor, and my supervisors at work. They're all great, and so I feel very well supported. It's just a season where a lot of stuff is going on, and I'm doing a lot of learning about myself as a person, but then also as a clinician. So another thing this fail taught me was that I really freaking struggle with the comparison trap still, which I thought I had moved on past, but clearly not. I found myself really comparing myself to my people in my cohort and just thinking like, oh my gosh, I must be so crap, like they didn't fail. But actually some people did fail and it wasn't just me. But it's still, you know, again, I don't think it would have hit me so hard if I wasn't so keen on comparing myself and my performance to other people. And actually, the only person I really should be comparing myself to is myself. But again, it's all really easy to say that now that I'm out of it. But it's, yeah, really tough. I'm also thinking about how this fail has prompted me to think about how I can build my confidence more in my clinical work. So, because it really hit me hard and it made me doubt my clinical work as I was going into placement. I actually found out that I failed while I was on placement, which was really great because I got very upset, and then I had to go in and do a session. And obviously it's a bit weird when you've just failed a session, or like a fake session, and then you're asked to do a real one. Like, it's really confusing. So a couple of people suggested that I kind of reflect on my strengths in therapy and things that have gone well, rather than be overly critical. Because, you know, as trainees, as aspiring psychologists, we are great at ripping to shreds our work, because that's what we're meant to do, you know, to reflect a lot of the time. But we fail to look at where we've gone right, where we've done things right, and actually we can learn so much from that, and it's really good for our like confidence and our clinical judgment. So I've learned that I need to do that more, and I'm trying to do that, you know, through supervision and also through like journaling and stuff, and just like my own personal reflections, like in the car. I think the biggest thing that I took away from this fail, and actually from my reaction to the fail, is how much I love my job. And now I can be so grateful for that. Like, I mean, at the time I was really crying. Like, it was horrific. Like, imagine a whole hour of me on Microsoft Teams to my personal tutor, just like tears, snot everywhere. It was non-stop. Like, the floodgates had opened. Also didn't help that it was my like PMS week. But anyway, yeah, it really taught me that, you know, I wouldn't be crying if I didn't care. If I didn't care about my clients, if I didn't care about my job, if I didn't enjoy my job. And like, that's such a privilege. And I guess I'm just gonna like hold on to that, like, because I really beat myself up for crying over a 20-minute test. Because, you know, it's only 20 minutes. It's not a complete insight into my actual capabilities day to day. You know, if I was really that bad, I would have failed my placements. So I guess the tears aren't embarrassing when I see it as actually a show of how much I care about my work and about the profession and about being better, and about wanting to be the best clinician as I can be. And actually that's not embarrassing at all. That's actually pretty nice to hear from someone working in the NHS, from someone who's meant to be in a caring profession. So yeah, that was another thing, which is kind of, in a way, acted as like an antidote for those thoughts of like, oh, should I even be in this profession or not? And like, I knew training wasn't going to be easy, but I didn't realise the absolute impact it was going to have on like my own sense of self and my own personal development. But I guess that's why we have a whole section on personal and professional development in training, which, you know, pre-warning to all you incoming trainees, not in a bad way, but just something, you know, that you should be mindful of, is that training will change you. I mean, it's 3 years, it's very intense. So make sure you look after yourself along the way, because I really thought I was, and apparently I wasn't doing it well enough. What I'm going to do from this point on is just really work on building my confidence up again, and thinking about my worth outside of psychology, but also acknowledging, you know, the fact that the OSCE did point out some really useful points. I also didn't fail like horrifically. Like, I think I was 3 marks or 2 marks off a pass, so that's not that bad. And everyone scored pretty low, apparently. I don't know if people are just saying that to make me feel better, but that's what people on my course have said. So yeah, I think the OSCE was a good kind of reflective exercise for me that did point out, you know, areas in my clinical development which I do need to work on, which is kind of getting comfortable with being curious and not knowing, and, you know, not necessarily kind of walking ahead of the client, but walking behind them and letting them show me where they want to take me, and being less task oriented. But also in the same breath, it's hard to do that when, you know, training is so focused on competencies and you're only on placement for 6 months, so you feel like you do have to be a bit quicker with your work. But anyway, yeah, I thought this might have been a longer video, but actually I don't know if all my thoughts are there yet, so it might be another video down the line. But if you kind of stuck it out to this point in the video, then thank you so much. If you're new around here, I'm sorry this was your first video. I do have some more interesting vlogs and stuff which will be coming soon. But until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Bye.